Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Mendonça. I lead MetrixLab for the Middle East, based out of Dubai. Thank you so much for making time to join us today for this webinar on the topic of localism. We hope you find it to be an insightful and interesting session. Before we begin, I would like to share a few brief housekeeping points. We are very keen to hear your questions, and we will have a Q&A at the end of this session. So please use the question box to submit them. We will try to answer all of them, but if we don't, then we'll follow up with you individually afterwards. Also, everyone attending today will receive a summary of the highlights and the high-level learnings from the session. Finally, in case you face any technical issues, please use the dial-in number on the invite so that you can listen along. Let me also introduce you to my colleagues, Celine and Gilbert, who lead our social insights practice and have worked on several global projects around the world. So an interesting fact about them is, they actually started working on this practice even before Instagram was born. I'm sure you are keen to get into the session and learn more about the digital manifestations of localism and gain insights that will help you fuel your communication and product innovation. So let's begin. We have been hearing how countries are going local by promoting local economies and locally produced goods and services. This is something that has gained popularity in recent years, particularly in response to globalization and the impact it has had on local communities and economies. Also, we have seen that some countries have embraced this trend more than others, but it's difficult to say whether countries as a whole are going local. So for today, we will focus on two countries, Saudi and the UAE, that have made efforts to promote local economies and production. So let's see what we as consumers feel and have to say about it. When we set out to learn more about this topic, we try to look at the reasons on why we are noticing this trend. And among the many reasons, some seem to be driven by the desire to be more self-sufficient, reduce the environmental impact of transportation, and thus create more sustainable and resilient local economies. Before we start deep diving into how consumers feel about it, let me talk about aspects around localism that we have explored and analyzed for today's talk. So, we looked at a broad range of topics. The first, countries supporting local goods and services. The second, organizations incorporating a local identity or sourcing goods locally. And the third, we as consumers prioritizing local goods and services. Also, when we say local products, it could, for example, mean something that is locally produced or produced with locally sourced raw materials, or even produced by a company whose origin is local. So it's quite broad. So when we collected all the user-generated content across social media sites, blogs, review sites on this topic, we clearly saw that this is just not a temporary fad, but is here to stay and only increasing. This is also reflected in people's search behavior. And as you can see on this graph, there has been an increase in interest on topics around localism over the last few years. So having said that, I'm now going to pass it on to my colleague Gilbert, who will tell you more on the specifics on how we collected the data to gather insights and then deep dive more into this topic.
Thank you, Danny. And before delving into the insights, let me provide you a very brief overview of the study scope and the methodology. So to get a clear understanding of localism, we analyzed conversations from Saudi Arabia and UAE. Most of these conversations are in the Arabic language, especially in KSA. However, because of the significant numbers of expats in the UAE, many people also communicate in English, with 96% of the conversations in UAE being in English. The period we analyzed spans 2 years, so from January 2021 until January 2023. And we analyzed user-generated content to learn more about the theme localism. And this exploration actually happened in 2 phases. First, we started very broad to identify the natural topics in the conversations about localism. Then we delved deeper into the significant topics. And we collected conversations from all kinds of channels. And this includes large social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But it also included conversations from forums and shop and review sites. Once these conversations are collected, we worked with AI to create clusters from the conversations. And this gives us a general understanding of the topics that people talk about in the landscape of localism. To get a deeper understanding of these topics, we also used human supervised enrichment to code and classify the conversations. And this method guarantees high quality data. And as you will see, it will also help us to get a detailed understanding of localism. So let's move to the insights, starting with the natural topics in the conversation or the examination of the digital landscape. And the digital landscape, it covers a wide variety of topics, from exports of local goods or local products to education program. Local Saudi products, they trigger the most talk. They also elicit quite a lot of positive feelings such as trust, love, and pride. We will tell you more about these emotions in a minute. But another large topic of conversation is the Made in Saudi program that supports the growth of local products and companies. And like the Made in Saudi program, the Make It in the Emirates initiative, it focuses on supporting local businesses. And even though the initiative, it supports various industry like technology and construction, consumers are most vocal about local foods and beverages. We also investigated how these topics evolved over time. And a couple of noteworthy observations that stand out in the conversation. So the tax relief for global companies and the Made in Saudi program, which is spearheaded by the government, they have aided in the growth of local businesses, and it also has encouraged people to buy local items. Following the outbreak of COVID, people started to prefer buying local products in order to also support the local economy. Another lockdown during the winter period led to a significant increase in the conversations about e-commerce platforms. These platforms made it easier and more affordable to purchase local products. And a final note is that over time, rising prices, they have become a significant obstacle to buy local products. But nevertheless, people keep looking for local products. They're searching for less known local brands as alternatives to the larger national firms. So in our few social insights, it's kind of like a combination of survey and focus group research, because with social insights, you can really count the number of conversations to understand importance and urgency. But it can also give you qualitative insights by sifting through those conversations. And one thing that stands out in the localism talk is that people are really passionately sharing their arguments of why purchasing local products is a good idea. And these reasons include the benefits to the economy, but also because these products, they're more fresh, and because of that, it just tastes better. Because there's so much richness in the conversations around localism, in the deep dive, we enrich the data by looking at it through different lenses. This includes who's talking about localism, are there differences between expats and natives, what are the drivers and barriers, how do e-platforms e-platforms leverage localism, or which kind of emotions drive localism, and what role does pricing play? Let's start with the investigation of the drivers and barriers. There is one major barrier to localism in KSA, which is the price. So consumers mentioned that price is too high compared to imported products, especially for food. So out of the local products, 60% of these comments are about food and 17 about beverages. So on the flip side, supporting the local economy, quality, and reliability, they help to drive localism in KSA. If we look at the UAE, freshness of food is the main driver of localism, followed by taste and environmental climate benefits. 99% of these comments are about food. What's also interesting is that these drivers are mainly mentioned by females who have a health-conscious lifestyle. And what is also interesting is that in the UAE, consumers didn't mention any barriers to localism at all. So just a quick note about the categories that people discuss. Unsurprisingly, food is the most mentioned category when people discuss localism in both the UAE and KSA. In KSA, consumers also talk about beverages, and the local beverages are perceived to be high quality, tasty, and trustworthy. But the high prices, yet again, they create a negative sentiment. We also see that the beauty category creates interest in local products. A small note on beauty, the next webinar is fully dedicated to trends and identifying white spaces in the beauty category. So please be on the lookout, it will be very insightful. But beauty regarding localism, it's small, but a very positively perceived segment. So there's a potential for growth in this category as well. I'm handing over the word to Celine to talk about the emotions behind localism.
Thank you, Gilbert. The manifestation of localism is different across the countries, especially when it comes to emotions. However, one thing is for sure, people from both countries share in detail their emotions. In this chart, we can see the different emotions identified and expressed by each country. In UAE, we see love and support driving talk. The love and support is focused on local agriculture with an emphasis on taste and environmental benefits. Consumers in Saudi desire to support the local economy and take pride in it. They really shared this in their talk. We see support, pride, and nationalism driving talk. However, high prices hinder the support and create anger, and thus price represents the #1 barrier to supporting local products. Earlier, we talked about the drivers and barriers of talk focused on localism for each country. Here, we focused on emotions. In the following slide, we will be bringing these emotions and drivers together to explore a layer deeper into localism. Here we can see how we cross-tabulated, cross-referenced emotions with drivers. The left chart focuses on Saudi and the right chart focuses on UAE. Whenever two labels are mentioned together often, you'll see the color of the co-occurrence get darker blue. This means that they have been mentioned together more. When we focus on Saudi, we see that supporting the local economy and meeting regional national standards drives positivity. There's a lot of support. Pride is highly associated with localism in Saudi, specifically about local services and events. However, prices offset sentiment. Overall, there is most trust in the local market. When we look at the table focused on UAE, we see love and support for localism coming together with local produce and products. People from UAE are most supportive of local produce, product, and source, especially when taste and freshness is discussed. There is most love for the local produce and product. There is a lot of support when economy and environmental benefits are discussed. There's a lot of interest when availability is discussed. This shows that while people in Saudi want to support the local economy, price offsets sentiment, And in UAE, taste, freshness, and support drives love and support. All these emotions and drivers are expressed thanks to the availability of local produce. We also see this come through in the various sources we gathered data from. We can see here where most online talk was for our localism study. We see Instagram and TikTok leading in generating talk. Interestingly, on these platforms, we see that people are talking about fresh, organic, local grocery delivery. Some examples are Emirates Biofarm or Greenheart Farm. These are in the UAE and are specialized in producing certified organic food. Both are available in supermarkets and for delivery. Access to local products are important for both Saudis and people living in the UAE. These synergies show on social media the need for e-platforms are met and amplify localism in appreciation. Now that we have looked at where the talk takes place, let's also look at who is talking. When we look into gender split per country, in Saudi, males are talking more often about localism online compared to females. Conversation is mostly around pride and nationalism. The majority of Saudis perceive localism positively, but around a fifth of Saudis perceive it negatively, meaning varying opinions are shared by both genders in this market. In UAE, it's the other way around. Females are talking more about localism online. Both genders are also more positive about localism than they are in Saudi. Conversation is mostly around love and support. Localism is more commonly discussed by males in KSA and by females in UAE. Males are proud of their country and want to show this in Saudi. Females in UAE are mostly supportive, especially because it is benefiting their health-conscious lifestyles. Insights on emotions show that engaging positive talk on localism boosts quality, freshness, taste, and economy conversations, especially among health-conscious females. Considering what we have shown so far, the data has shown 4 main areas where we see localism is expanding. Let's highlight them. We see that price perception, food attributes such as freshness and taste, engaging with the identified emotions, and tailoring a diverse platform strategy can bring the potential both nations hold alive if and when they would want to leverage new initiatives regarding localism. In the next couple of slides, we will focus on the key takeaways, food for thought, and strategic consultancy regarding these 4 points. Let's start with improving price perception. This can include different tactics. However, in Saudi, clarifying what drives local product price will offset negativity as people already share pride and support towards the nation. When people understand the pricing behind the local products, they will gladly purchase. We have seen this in the emotions they express. Clarifying the reason behind the prices could be done in several ways. For example, leveraging the brand origin and creating opportunities for consumers to easily access the products. Let's look at food attributes. Sharing the positive attributes of locally produced products in communications will drive more connection. Let's think of an example. Made in Saudi, for instance. For this initiative, for the local products in communications, you can consider further emphasis. People perceive the products as high quality, tasty, and trustworthy. On the other hand, in the UAE, focusing initiatives on fresh produce that have a clear environmental benefit will effectively impact localism. This will also help in strengthening price perceptions. So here we can see that they're connected. Gilbert will take you through the final takeaways.
Thank you, Celine. So another way to overcome the negative price perception of local products is to leverage the positive emotions. We see that the emotions love and support really stand out in the UAE. And by potentially emphasizing these emotions in communication, we can try to balance out the negative attitude towards the price. In Saudi, the emotions are a bit more diverse. In that country, it is recommended to focus the communication on support, pride, and nationalism. So we also recommend a tailored social media channel strategy when it comes to localism. For example, in Saudi, TikTok can be used to strengthen pride and trust in the national economy by stimulating consumers to share their fun and genuine moments with their local products. For UAE, Instagram shows to be the channel or the main platform for local farming outreach. Especially millennial females share their positive opinions on these channels. This channel can also be leveraged to target the health-conscious females. And in the outreach, we could consider to emphasize product attributes such as freshness, taste, and environmental benefits of local products. And we can also, in the UAE, we can also build on the emotion, support, and love. So just to quickly recap, the key marketing and communication implications. So we should focus on enhancing the perceived value of local products, to get away from the negative price perception, which can be achieved by emphasizing positive food attributes such as quality and freshness. We can also leverage the positive emotions such as pride and support in KSA or love and support in UAE. And this could also help to balance out the negative price perception. And then finally, tailoring the social media strategy can also play a vital role in raising awareness and promoting the positive perception of local products. So thank you so much for listening to us and listening to the consumers who express themselves about local products and social media. So we have a couple of questions. So please post your questions in the Q&A. And I already see quite some interesting questions. I'll just pick a couple, and there are so many questions. Not sure if we can answer them all. If we don't get to your question, we promise that we will follow up with you after the webinar. So reading some of these out loud. So which platforms do you use for the study? So I can take this one. With Social Insights, we cover everything that's publicly available. And this includes the larger social media channels like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. But we also cover forums and shop and review sites. And the reason why we provide such a complete coverage is that we don't only rely on machine data collection, so scraping tools, but we also supplement it with human data collection. So we have a team of around 500 analysts all over the world, including in your region, and they help us to manually gather the data. So let me see another question. Celine, I was wondering if you could maybe take this one, like how long does it take for a study?
No, definitely, gladly. Thank you for asking. Each study's timeline is based on the research objectives we have. Our AI solutions are faster than our combined human enrichment solutions, as Gilbert was mentioning earlier. However, we are very adamant to make sure to fit your timeline needs. So each study is always delivered on time. You can always reach out to us with your needs and timeline needs, and we will make them work accordingly. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Celine. I think we have time for one more question. Let me see. I think this is an interesting one. Denny, I was wondering if you could maybe have a look at this one. I'm interested to learn more about the barriers. How can I find more about the barriers?
Thanks, Gilbert. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yes, of course. So So going back to what we've analyzed here, right? So what we've done is we've given you a very broad understanding around different topics on localism. But what we could also do is deep dive into any of the individual topics and then see how they branch out and then identify barriers around them. But yes, happy to get in touch with you and explore more on this. But yes, to answer your question, it can definitely be done. So yeah, I mean, Gilbert, as you mentioned, I think that's all the time that we had for today. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I hope you found this to be insightful. And as I mentioned at the start, everyone attending today will receive a summary of the highlights and the high-level learnings from this session. Thank you again and have a lovely day.